Hello and welcome to the new rebrand of the Danielle K Show. Formerly known as Prince, formerly known as Big Money Stylist. I'm a hairstylist by trade. I'm the creator and owner of Natural Beaded Row hair extensions and Isla hand-tied hair. But recently I've been called to expand the podcast because I have an amazing story, but I genuinely love other people's stories. And so that's kind of the shift in this podcast is like hearing other powerful business owners, entrepreneurs, men, women, just share their story of how they built their success that you see on social media, because not everything is the highlight reel, you guys. And sometimes we look at somebody and we're quick to judge, but we don't ask what their story or what their journey was. So I'm really excited today. I have Allie Scott here in my house. She is a dear friend of mine and she's also an MBR trainer and she's been with my education for quite a few years. She also runs with Garrett's, the dudes, the guys, Garrett's side of Warrior. So she's really mixed inside of both of our communities and cultures within inside of Wake Up Warrior and Natural Beaded Row hair extensions. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is my first time on a podcast of your guys's and I'm just so honored. I'm so honored to finally be here.
Hey you guys, it's Danielle K. White. Welcome to the Danielle K. White Show. On this podcast, what you can expect is anything from fashion, fitness, hair, and yes, even family. I'm the creator of Natural Beaded Row hair extensions and Isla hand-tied hair. But what I'm really passionate about is sharing other people's stories, how they went from the pit to the peak, how entrepreneurs build the success that you see online today. So definitely tune into this podcast for a good story and a little bit of fashion and a little bit of hair and beauty mixed in. You and your podcast, you have a podcast called Ash After Dark. Ash After Dark. What's your podcast about?
So really, it's just, I own a salon and I've got all of these stylists that we are so funny and hardworking, but also super inappropriate. And so something that we know. Just kidding. Yeah, we're just like inappropriate. So something when I decided, okay, I want to do a podcast and Ash After Dark, it just kind of opens up for, it can be about anything. And it's just me. Sometimes I have team members on there. Sometimes we even have some people that come to our salon on there.
Okay.
And it's just Ash After Dark.
What do you talk about?
Everything. Everything. So that's the thing is like, it's actually Ash After Dark is a saying that we say in the salon because things kind of get very not so put together when the sun goes down.
Oh,
and we're like a little
vampires.
bit more open. We're a little bit more open with each other, a little bit like less professional and just our true selves. And so we just like laugh that we're always like, oh, Ash After Dark. That's when somebody's dancing, or that's like when a client's telling us their deepest, darkest secrets. So
it's like salon real talk. Pull your mic just a tiny bit closer to you. There we go. Just so it's not echoey. We can edit that out. Okay. So it's Ash After Dark. It's just like real vibes, real talk.
Yes.
And is it fun though? Is it fun doing it?
Yes, it is fun doing it. I mean, it's one day it will definitely be something like this, but I do not have the reps. It's not like this yet. It's still beginning, but it's fun. It's really fun.
You know what's so crazy though is I feel like I've been podcasting now for 5 years and I feel like it wasn't until this last year that I actually have taken it serious. But honestly, you have to get reps in. So in the beginning, it should be fun. Anything you do, I think when people jump into something, they want to be a professional right out of the gate. And you're like, if you look at it like that, you're going to fail because you're not a professional because you don't have the reps.
Exactly.
So I'm happy that you're doing it. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a plug for your podcast as well. Maybe when I'm in Salt Lake.
Yes. I would die.
I'll do a podcast. I'll get after hours. We'll have a shot of tequila and see where the day goes.
Oh my gosh, it would be the best.
So I want to talk to you kind of a little bit about your journey.
Yes.
I want to talk about your journey personally and professionally. You guys, if you don't know, Allie Scott runs a large salon in Salt Lake City. I'd say you're probably the biggest NBR salon in Salt Lake and maybe even out of all of our educators. How many stylists do you have at your salon?
So we have 15 stylists, 16 with myself.
And it's solely MBR and color, right?
Oh yes. The only extensions that we offer is Natural Beaded Rows. And then we do offer some of our stylists or newer stylists, they do also offer color.
Okay. So let's go way back. How long? I mean, your salon is doing amazing. One of the things that I love about Allie, you guys, is she's a great team leader and she's very good at culture. So whether you are in the salon industry or not and you're running teams, go watch her stories, go watch her Instagram because it's true. Like your team are very like diehard. I want to say you're a little bit of a cult, but that's fine because that's kind of that is actually the culture I have built inside of my education.
Yes.
You know how it is. Like when first people hear about MBR and they're like, I hear they're kind of like a cult a little bit, but you really want that community. That's what you want in your business is you want your business to feel like they will die. They'll stab a bitch, you know?
Yes, extended family.
Extended family. So definitely if you're a business owner, check her out because she's brilliant at doing that. But let's go way back.
Okay.
Because it wasn't always easy.
No.
And it's like every salon owner I've ever met, it's like, how do I say this? Like it's so much work without it being worth it, without it being fun. And it has to stay productive. It has to say, you have to be able to make money and it still has to be something you are passionate about.
Right.
So let's start way back. When did you go to hair school? When did you start doing hair?
So I started doing hair in 2010, 2011.
Okay.
And I honestly just went they had at our community college, they also had a hair school there. So I was able to get my associates because my parents were really, really big about education.
Okay.
And so that way I was technically going to a college while also just learning how to do hair.
Were your parents, okay, so like my parents were like, I went to one semester of college and then I was like, I think I'm going to go to hair school. And they're like, really?
So they always knew I was going to go to hair school because I always knew since I was 5 years old that I was going to do hair. And luckily they actually were really supportive. My dad does a lot of politics and law in Utah. And so I remember even going back, I was probably like 10 years old. And probably one of the best moments in my life was I was just like in my parents' kitchen, I don't know, eating a bowl of cereal before I went to bed or something. And I remember it was like the legislative session. My dad walks in and he was telling me, he's like, Allie, I've got to give you this business card. It's this woman and he knew I always wanted to do hair. And he's like, she owns all these hair schools and she does all these things. And like, you could truly do, even if you want to be a hairstylist, Allie, like you could create and do anything that you want. And I was so young. And so that really impacted me that I was like, okay, although like, yes, like my dad's an attorney and my sisters are in the medical stuff industry, I definitely am like a black sheep in the sense of that
more creative.
Yes, I like to do hair, but I always had a lot of support that, hey, but also, if you want to do hair, that you actually could be super successful at this.
Yeah.
And so they always knew, but at the same time, they were like, but we want you to still get some type. They really were just so gung-ho and still are about education.
So did you go to college for a little bit, you said?
Yeah. So basically like the community college. So I just got my associates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I didn't keep going after that. And I still had money in my education fund. And I was like, you guys want to pay for my extension training? But they didn't.
Oh, really?
They're like, no, we'll just roll it to your kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
So you got your associates, then you went to hair school.
Yeah. So I did them simultaneously together and I loved hair school. I was one of the weirdos.
Oh, you did it together?
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yes. The program like did it together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At the community college.
Oh,
you could do hair school and
get your associates.
Cool.
Okay.
It was cool because like math was like hair school math.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It was a really cool program. It's actually sad it's not there anymore. Else I would
say, what was it called?
Well, it was at Slick at Salt Lake Community College.
Wow. Okay.
But I really wish it was still there. It was really amazing. But here's the thing is I loved hair school. Like it was so much fun. And I built a clientele during hair school.
Oh, wow.
And actually some of our clients are still my clients from hair school.
You know what? It's interesting about you saying like how your parents were very supportive of it. And you are probably one of the few that looked at it as like fun, but also like a business.
Yes.
See, for me, I remember thinking like, well, I don't really know what I want to do in college, so I guess I'll do hair school.
Right.
And then when I got into it, I kind of had a knack for it and I kind of liked it, but I was like, I still was like, it's just hair. I definitely looked at it as the hobby hairstylist.
Yeah.
Like I went into it pretty young, like right out of high school. And then I got married really young, like, but I just never really, I thought of it more than just, I very much thought of myself as just a hairstylist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it sounds like you kind of went into it like, this is my career. This is my passion.
Yeah. But then at the same time, I feel like just being raised where I was and I still had, it's actually so funny, but what I always wanted to do, because when I was super young, I was like, oh, I'm going to have these salons. And I knew it was going to, what it was going to be called, what it was going to look like all these things. And I was always just so obsessed with fashion. So I was like, I want to go do hair in New York so I can work on Fashion Week, all these things. But then when it came down to actually doing it, I was like, no, I want to just have like a family. So my dream was I'm going to have a home salon and just do it when my kids were at school.
That's like this. That's such the mom Utah, like,
yes.
But you know what is crazy about that? It's like, as a mom, we don't sometimes give ourselves permission to succeed because we believe our kids come first, which our kids do come first, but that doesn't mean that you can't have success too.
Right.
It's not one or the other.
Right.
So how did you now? Your son, how old's your son?
So he's 10.
He's 10. Okay. So when did you get married?
So young.
Did you?
I was 20.
Okay, you were 20.
I was 20. My husband, Joe, is 31. So we've got 11 years.
Okay.
He has 2 kids.
Okay.
They were 1 and 3 at the time. They're 17 and 15 currently.
Okay.
And then Lucas is 10.
So how long you guys got married, and then when did you have Lucas?
I had Lucas when I was 22 because I'm 32.
Okay, so you were young.
I was a young chicken.
Were you doing hair at the time? Were you doing hair at the time?
Yeah, because I went to hair school right out of high school, and I met Joe kind of during that time too. And so we were dating when I was going through hair school.
So I think I knew that, but maybe I forgot.
Yeah.
Did your parents think you were nuts? They're like, why are you dating a 31-year-old with 2 kids?
Yes. So first it was, I didn't really even tell them. So we actually had met when I was 18.
Okay.
I used to work at my best friend now, her name is Sophie, and her mom owned a gymnastics gym. Okay. And I used to coach gymnastics, cheer, all of that growing up. And I did that during hair school.
Oh my God. What else did you do during hair school?
Literally. Seriously, I never slept.
Yeah.
So I also, that was my job that I had. All throughout high school and hair school, I was a coach at this gymnastics and cheerleading gym. And my husband, Joe, he actually used to do bodybuilding, personal training, all of that. And so he actually would rent out the gym at night and he would do these little boot camps. And I've always loved exercising. And so I was done.
Girl, this is a cute guy.
Yeah. No, actually I did. It was him and his cousin, and I did not think that he was a cute guy at all. At all. I don't know. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
If anything, I thought his cousin was cute.
You were young. Yeah.
But we did these boot camps, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can go to work and then I'll just work out with you guys afterwards, because they did it after my classes were done.
Yeah, I mean, you're in college, you're in hair school, you're doing cheer. Why not stay and work out?
Why not stay and work out? So I did that, and then that's how we met each other. But nothing with that. It was just big group classes.
Yeah.
And then we bumped into each other about a year later at the gas station.
Oh, okay.
And even then, still never thought of anything. And then he found me on Facebook.
Oh, how
and
funny.
Asked me
so
out.
He obviously thought you were cute.
Yeah.
But he's probably like, oh, she's too young.
Yeah. Well, and also at the time when we originally met, he was going through a divorce, and I had no idea.
Oh, okay.
Because we didn't know anything about each other. And then when we found each other again and just bumped into each other, he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And I was embarrassed. I looked terrible, but it was a Sunday. I was pumping up gas, and I looked so bad about it. I just remember I was like, I'm just so tired. I'm just going to hair school like crazy. Yeah. So he just writes me, and then but my parents, we went out on our first date, and I was like, oh, yeah, no, I kind of really like this guy. But he was like, oh, I did not realize how young you are.
Oh, okay.
That could be really creepy.
Yeah.
So we only went on it was less than a week later. I don't know how he
did
got
you know,
my mom's.
Did you know he was divorced and had kids on your first date?
On our first date. I knew he was older, but he didn't really talk much about his personal life.
Okay.
And so I didn't really know. And then it was there was Facebook, but that wasn't even, I don't know.
It wasn't
I wasn't even shocked. Yeah, I didn't even stalk. And so I was like, I think this guy might be older. I wasn't sure, but I was so I went out with him anyway. And then it wasn't even a week later, I don't know how he got my mom's phone number, but he texted my mom and he took her to lunch. A week. 1 week after just hanging out with me.
I'm going to have to win her mom over.
And was just I just want you to know, I'm Joe Scott. I am 31, and I have these 2 little kids, and this looks pretty weird, but I just want you to know who and I just want you to know who I am.
That is crazy. So he's told your parents before, you told them?
Yeah.
But you're whatever, is it serious?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, because it had only been a week, but he's I didn't want to scare him off or think that I was doing anything weird. And so he just went, and he literally took my mom to Gormandy's downtown Salt Lake.
So she was like, okay, he's a nice guy.
Yeah. So she's okay, he's a nice guy. And I don't know. My dad's just not my dad's just the least judgmental person. Yeah. So he's like, okay, whatever.
That's fine. So I met Garrett when I was 18. He was 25. And he had Parker. He has a son. And we went on several dates. And then I ran into, this is a funny story, but I ran into some girl, and she goes, oh, you're dating Garrett White. And I go, yeah. And she goes, oh, do you think his son is so cute? I'm all, oh, no, different Garrett White. She's like, no, Garrett White that lives on, because we live in the same apartment complex. And I was like, yeah, that's him. She goes, oh, yeah, no, she was a bitch. She was just saying that because I think she liked him and was anyways, she was like, oh, no, he has a son. You should ask him. So I remember I go up to his apartment, and I'm like, how do I bring this up? And I literally just I heard you have a son, casually. And he goes, oh, I do. Did you see that photo in my room? And I was like, that's your fucking son? I'm like, I thought that was your nephew. He's like, oh, no, that's my son. He said it super casual.
Wait, how old was Parker?
Parker was only 2.
Okay,
he got
so little.
He was 9 months when Garrett and his ex split. So I was just my first thought was, where's your son live? And he's like, oh, he's in Canada with his mom because that's where his mom's from. And I'm like, well, this is not going anywhere. We're just having fun. And she's in Canada, so who cares? And then I married him.
Yep.
But anyways.
That's how it works.
So you got married super young.
Really
Did
young.
you want to start a family right away or did it just happen?
I kind of did only because, so my stepsons, they were 1 and 3 when I met them. And then, 1 and 3, 2 and 4. I don't know the age gap, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they were really, really little. And so the youngest was 4 when I got pregnant because I just didn't want a huge gap. You didn't want a huge gap, yeah. Because I wanted the boys to just feel like dad didn't have 2 separate families.
Oh, okay.
I really wanted them to just like
feel like one.
All like one. So that's why I did ultimately decide, or we just decided, okay, we kind of want to have our little boy a little sooner than later.
Yeah. And so by the time you had him, were you doing hair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I was.
How did that like, I feel like, I mean, I did hair for probably like 4 or 5 years and then had my first baby, but it's interesting when you have kids, you really have to look at it differently because for me, I had to pay for daycare, right?
Yes.
It's like some people, maybe their families help.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking like, oh, I got to charge more to actually pay for my kid to go to daycare. Right. Was that hard being in the hair industry? And tell me a little bit about that after you had your son.
Yeah. So after I had my son, that was more of like, that was more of the era that my husband was working, doing everything that he was doing. And I was more at home. Okay. And so that's when I kind of got into I'm a hobby hairstylist. And so I would just do it on the weekends or at night.
Oh,
and
like
so then
your husband could watch the baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that I didn't have to have one.
Pay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long you were kind of running your own thing? Did you rent a chair? What did you do?
So I first did. Okay, what did we first do? So it's actually kind of crazy. I actually was living in Las Vegas but I had my license up in Utah, but not in Las Vegas. So I didn't do hair. I would do hair not correctly. Yeah. In Las Vegas just for friends. Okay. And just be with my son. But then we came up to Utah every other weekend to see our other kids.
Oh, okay.
And so then my parents actually before even this, my husband and I, we were just not in a good place. And my little boy was only 8 months old.
Oh, wow.
We were not in a good place. I didn't know that we were going to stay together. We had so many fights and arguments and I just didn't know if it was going to work out. And so something that my parents told me is my dad told me, he's like, you need to be able to you've got to be able, you now have an 8-month-old, you got to be able to provide for that 8-month-old and provide for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Like even if you didn't stay married.
Yeah, even if I didn't. So that way, if I want to be in that relationship or I just can't.
Yeah.
And so my parents actually transformed one of their spare bathrooms into a home salon for me. And that's where I really started doing hair, and I did it just on the weekends, every other weekend. And then when I moved back up to Utah, I did it every Saturday. And then I would do it one Wednesday and every Saturday. And then I went and got into the salon world and started booth renting at different salons.
So your relationship was kind of in a sticky spot? It
was in a really sticky spot.
When did it start to turn? Because that's when obviously when I started my whole brand, it was because I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to stay married. I was and same thing. I was like, if I stay in this relationship, I want it to be out of choice and not because because he's providing for me.
Yes.
So how and it's kind of a scary place to be in, honestly, because you're you have this kid, and for any, I remember thinking if you're a mom, you shouldn't just stay in it for the kids, but once you're a mom, you can decide if you want to say that.
Exactly.
And so for me, that's the birth of it. And so for you, how did you're okay, in this mindset of I don't know if this is going to work out. When did you decide to kind of make it work out?
So,
because you guys seem like you're in a good space now.
Yes, we're in a really good space now. This is my life partner. But it's just so crazy. Yes, the impact that your family has on my life is insane. But the reason why we had such a rough time is our blended family aspect.
Oh, really?
It was really tough. It was really hard. And it was really hard on me. And I think I actually was really insecure. I was really insecure about it. And what was a huge turning point for me was actually when I went to the Warrior Woman event.
Oh, forever ago?
Forever ago. And that was a huge turning point because all of the things that triggered me and made me feel insecure and that made me and my husband really fight and go at it always had things to do with our blended family situation, which ended up, it really was just me being super insecure.
You meaning his ex and their that dynamic?
Yeah, that dynamic was.
You were so young.
I was so young and I had just such a hard time with it. But there was something that Garrett and Parker did on stage.
Oh, yeah.
And just watching that and just kind of like putting myself in that position, that was really healing for me to just really accept, let go, and then just see all the people involved of so much appreciation and love for them instead of resentment, anger, and jealousy.
Yeah.
And then so my husband was very patient with me for a long time because I think my little boy, so it was 8 months when things started getting a little bit more rocky. Definitely being able to make my own money gave me more confidence as well. But then what the tipping point of like, oh, I choose you, I want you, I don't like, I love you was really, probably when my little boy was like 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's crazy. So it's like what people don't understand about relationships is you can have these like periods of like rockiness for 4 or 5 years, but you can choose to create a different story. I joke around with Garrett all the time because we've been married 21 years and I'm like, we're in it together, buddy.
Yes.
Like we're at that point in life. Like we're just going to figure some shit out. But for a while it was very like touch and go.
Yes.
And I think people don't understand, like you can work on your business and avoid your relationships so that that's not really going to help. So you could, same thing with me. Like that's when I built my brand. I was like in the thick of it. And then I was like, okay, I can only like sedate in work for so long.
Exactly.
And any entrepreneur or hairstylist who doesn't relate to that is lying because we sedate in work because we love what we do.
Exactly.
And so then you get to this place where you're like, my relationship is at choice and either I choose to stay in it or I choose to move on.
Yes.
So you chose to stay in it. What are some of the things you guys did to kind of like bring your relationship back together?
So after going to that event and like ever since I joined Natural Beaded Rows and BMS, the whole thing was this whole like have it all lifestyle where we did, date nights with your spouse every single week and that you did like your little daily deposits, your daily love notes to your family. And I've done that every single day since.
You're very religious like when you do stuff.
I really am. I did. And why is because I just very slowly started to see the benefits. And so then I just wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
And then I saw the benefits and I kept going. And so it's been like a slow journey of like my relationship or a slow journey even like with my physical health or a slow journey even with my business. But like I just did those super, super simple daily things every single day. And that's like what just like
Yeah. It's I love that you're sharing that because I think that consistency is overrated.
Yes.
And even with, dieting or whatever it is, people will do it for like a month. And I'm like, a month isn't long enough. I know you think 30 days is a long time, but in the long scheme of things, it's not.
Yeah.
So it's like important to be like consistent in everything you do. How did you find Natural Beaded Rows?
Okay. So I was working in Utah in a suite. Well, actually, sorry, it wasn't a suite. It was a booth rental salon. And I was working next to, and one of my really, really close friends, she did NBR. She's one of the first ones. And then she came down, she ended up moving down here, coming and working with you guys, your education. And so I always did extensions, Kenzie Davis.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I always did extensions, but I did the braided wefts. So I was always using the hand-tied wefts, but I never did like with beads and string. Okay. And I wasn't custom coloring.
Yeah.
So I always used like bohem hair, like all these all these super old school stuff.
That's funny.
And I would like teach like braided weft classes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah. But we sat next to each other at our old salon. And just became really, really good friends. And so I would see what she was doing and then what she was creating. And I was just like, what are you doing? And then I would start watching. So she's like, oh yeah. And then she's the one that introduced me to you. Okay. So that's when then I started following. And then this is my turning point, which I'm so freaking grateful that you have done podcasts because for me, I was like, okay, I don't have enough money to go and learn how to do MBR, but I could go and learn habit. So I went to that class. I went to a different extension method class and it was literally so terrible. It was the worst class I've ever been to because there were no systems and processes and I had already been educating. And so I was like, oh, that was and she told me that's going to be a waste of your money. And so I finished that class and that's when the podcast came out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the podcast, the very first episode was being a slave behind the chair.
Being a slave behind the chair?
Yes.
Sounds about right.
And I was driving and I was sobbing. It was like I never even listened to podcasts and I just was sobbing my eyes out because I was like, that is me. She's speaking to me. Like everything that she's saying is me. Your story I resonate so much with. And so then I called her. She was working down here. I called her and I said, can you get me into one of these classes?
Oh, nice. So what was your first class? Was it surf and sand?
Surf and sand.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's the evolution of education. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yep.
So then you came in. I think what people don't realize and what I'm super passionate about education is like, I figured out a way to do extensions that I feel like is very detailed. It's like something that I wear in my own hair. So of course it's a phenomenal product. But I got to this place where I was like, when I was teaching and I was just teaching, how to put the hair in and that, and artists would take a certification and then they would go home, but they wouldn't really implement it.
Right.
But it wasn't even about that. It was like they needed more than just a 2-day class. But there was this other side that now I'm very passionate about. And it's tying like warrior into that, which is like having it all lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which ultimately is like boundaries and balance.
Yes.
And it's crazy because hairstylists, they burn themselves out to the ground with and the sad thing is they love what they do so much. They don't even make very good money.
Right.
And they're horrible with numbers and they just think they're making more than they do. And then they go to pay their bills and they're like, I am way too tired to see this little in my bank account.
Yes.
And they repeat these patterns and behaviors because they label themselves as just a hairstylist. This is what I can charge. This is who I am. That's their identity. Instead of looking at it like, this is my trade, that is their identity. And I saw this in so many artists. And that was why I was like, okay, we need to transform the industry. And so that's why I love the education side of it, but I love seeing personal journeys like yours.
Yeah.
And it's like, you came in thinking like, oh, it's just a certification. And then you got just real smack
like,
in the,
wow.
You're like, what? You're like, this is, because even back in Surf and Sand, we weren't just teaching the hair element of it. And people want like social media tactics and business training. So we're like, we'll pitch that, but that's not what you're going to get when you get there.
I was so shocked. I couldn't even believe it.
What was your experience in that first class?
I'm telling you, I remember every detail. It was like one of my favorite best moments of my entire life. Like I remember everything. I know where I sat. I know exactly the stories were shared. I know everything, but I have never experienced that. And I have never experienced so many people being honest.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I'm here. And I had done a lot of things inside of our industry, working with a bunch of big brands, traveling all over, doing color stuff, teaching color classes, working with everybody. And I go here and I was like, what is this? And we are also talking about our family. Wait, we're also talking about like literally winning and yes, of course, making money. But then wait, when I actually do my numbers, I'm actually paying for her to sit in my chair. So actually, that doesn't work. Wait, you actually care about my son?
Yeah.
Wait, you care about like you actually, that makes sense that if I'm more healthy, then I can stand behind the chair longer and do better. It was so mind blowing.
Yeah. It was just like an element of like incorporating like everything a hairstylist needs. But that's crazy. So you were automatically hooked.
Oh yes. I came home before I even got home. Like when I was staying in my room, I remember I just had consults and I wasn't even doing it yet, but I was just like closing down these consults. I was like, it's going to be $500 deposit. And I was like, I don't even know really what I'm doing, but I'll learn that on day 2.
But here's what's so crazy. So well, that's like when we teach something, we're like, just try it. But isn't that crazy? Like in the hair industry, that we're taught a set of rules that we abide by and we don't question. It's like you must work Saturdays. You must have consultations done this way. You must do the 5% price increase every year.
Right.
And when I had no money and was trying to stockpile cash so I could leave my husband, I started really questioning a lot of the rules that the hair industry was taught. And I felt like I did everything wrong. And then when I looked at the facts, I was like, why am I abiding by these rules? And I started doing crazy shit. Like, I think I'll double my prices tomorrow. I think I'll stop working Saturdays. I think I'll fire these 5 clients. And people were like, you can't do that. I was like, I think I'm going to.
But I can.
But I think I will. So when I did these things and I found that they were working, and then we would tell stylists, like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do a phone consultation. You're going to ask these series of questions. It's just a sales call.
Yes, it's so easy.
It's a sales. And so for me, I'm like, I had to go through the mud to figure this out. But then it was like, here, trust and do this. And I think that that's really what a lot of stylists need, is just this permission to go.
Yes.
So you start implementing all these things. When did you, like, at this point, you were a solo stylist, right?
Yeah, it's in a booth rental salon.
Okay. So when did the big vision of Ash come along?
So when I came home from my my 2-day intensive, I came home and then I was taking so many clients. I was doing like 8 to 12 a day, working like 8 a.m. till sometimes 3 a.m. Like I was working like 6 days a week. I was a psycho. And so I came home and I fired all of my color clients. I didn't even service them. I fired everybody.
Why were you doing so many? Because I think that's not till 3 a.m, but people don't want to say no to money. People pleasers. Sister. It's like
it's literally that. What did our industry teach us?
Yeah,
more money. More clients equals more clients equals more money.
Right.
So this concept that I could do less clients and do higher services. I was like, oh, so I thought that the success was me doing what no other stylist would do and be at the salon until 3 a.m.
Yeah, you're like,
sometimes
I'll show
even
them.
6 a.m.
Yeah,
I've only done that like 5 times.
What person comes in at 3 a.m.?
You know what? Seriously.
I'm like, did you work in Vegas?
No, that's what's so crazy is like sometimes like I'd be like, I'm pushed back. I can't get you till 10 p.m. and they would come.
Okay, I was like, I can't imagine being like, would you like a midnight appointment? I'd be like,
what?
Really?
Yeah, that's what's so insane is I still have like all of the same clients and the same girls. They were just my assistants.
Yeah.
And now they just like moved over with me. It's just weird. I'm like, I don't know how we all stuck on this and I don't know how I'm still standing, but we're doing it. You're like,
but we were working till 3 a.m, so we're bonded.
Yeah, so now we're actually bonded.
So you cut out your colors.
Cut out everything, but I then filled it with so many NBR clients. And so we just rented out multiple chairs inside of this booth rental salon and I had a whole team. I had 2 shifts of assistants because they couldn't work the whole day with me except for my girlfriend, Sophie. She's the only one.
They let you rent out 2 chairs?
So they would let me rent out as many as I wanted as long as I just paid for them.
I love that you had your own team inside of somebody else's salon.
Yeah.
You're like, but you're, I love this so much because you're like, but I'm only paying for 2 chairs of rent instead of a whole salon.
And so we would rent out 3 to 4 chairs.
Oh my God.
So, and then I would have, probably like 6 to 8 assistants. And then they would do shifts because nobody could hang the whole day.
Right.
So it was like the 8 a.m. till the 2 p.m. crew or the 3 p.m. crew, then the 3 p.m. crew till the, 3 a.m. crew.
Wow.
So except for Sophie, she stayed with me the whole time.
Wow.
So but what really changed was my current environment and current situation that I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. I always say I've never lost so many friends than learning how to do NBR. I had never had so many people.
People don't like when you rise because it questions the box that they're in and they're saying, you don't like my box?
Yeah. So then I realized you guys actually were never my friends in the first place. Mm-hmm. But I have never had so many people go against me and talk shit about me and hate me for learning how to do an extension method. The day that I posted, it was like wildfire like I hadn't even gone to a class yet and I had all of these big businesses and all these people giving me calls like, what are you doing? You're going to go join the Mean Girls Club. You're going to go join the Mean Girls. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
You're like, if that success is mean,
Thank you. I'm like, wait, so you're telling me, and then after I got back, I'm like, so you're telling me somebody that wants me to have more space and time with my family and somebody that wants me to be nice and healthy and then somebody that also wants me to be able to win is a Mean Girls Club? I'm going to stick with them.
Yeah. So, I think it's because at the time we were the highest priced extension.
Yes. And people did not
and people don't like that. They're like, we only want to pay $900 for certification. How dare you charge $5,000? But I knew the value that we added. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had and we were really big on like, no, you guys, it was so weird because I got back and everybody's like, you do NBR? And everybody was wanting to try to film me, try to take pictures. And I was like, get out. You can't. And so my salon owner would keep just pushing the boundary. And I said, no, you have to go learn it yourself.
Yeah, because you paid like a lot of money. Yeah. Back then it was like $5,000, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So you paid a lot and you have to protect your investment.
Yes. Like, and when that happened too, because I also I was doing a lot of people, but I wasn't profitable. Let's be honest. Like I paid my bills, but then I didn't have anything left over.
Oh, wow.
So even when I had my consult to come and go to the class, it was $4,000 at the time, but that's all I had in my savings account. Oh, wow. That was it. And so I was like, let me grab my card number. And I'm like going to the bank account and all of my savings I'm putting in my checking. I don't know. I just believed it. I just knew.
You're also probably, if you're working until 3 a.m, something's got to shift.
And it's that story, that slave behind the chair. And then hearing that and then going to your page and then seeing your results, I'm like, I'll do whatever she's doing.
Yeah. Well, and it's like here's what people don't realize. Like how long can your body keep up with that.
No.
It physically would start shutting down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then when you, and that's another problem in our industry is it's like for years, it's gotten better, but for years it was like sharing is caring. And like, if you went and got a certification, like, let me just lean over your shoulder and teach you. Yeah. And that's why there's a lot of really janky extensions because people aren't properly educating themselves.
Exactly.
Because there's a low standard when it comes to hair extensions. You go to hair school and you learn hair color and hair cutting, but yet hair extensions, it's the highest service in the marketplace. And yet you take a one-day certification that doesn't really.
Which is insane because it is the most transformational service. And not only just on the outside, but also it just affects so much of who you are on the inside.
Right.
Like getting hair extensions, like my clients have they've gotten higher raises in their jobs. They've left like bad relationships or they've gotten in new relationships. Like their lives have transformed and they know, and I know it is because they're inside and who they are. Yeah. It affects on their outside when they have hair extensions.
Yeah. I love that. I talk to so many people where I'm like, I always say like MBR is a feeling.
It is such a feeling.
And people that are like, oh, I would never buy extensions. And I'm like, I don't care. You're not my market.
Yep.
But what I do know is it exposes somebody for who they are. It's like when you put that hair in and they look in the mirror, it's like you're like, oh, it's such a good, I like get chills thinking about it. Like it's such a good rewarding feeling to see them be like, oh my God, this is me.
Yes,
you know, so it's just like an amazing feeling. So you went on to, when did Ash Studios start?
Okay, so I just was like, you know what? I'm kind of out. I'm kind of out. Like I'm out of this.
Yeah, you're
this
like
area.
toxic. Yeah.
This is super toxic. Social media was really buzzing, and people were posting really mean things about me. And I was in the middle of all of it.
Wow,
where I was in.
People don't know how dark the hair industry is.
I know it was so bad. So I'm like, I had like 5 extension companies in one weekend all go after me.
Oh man,
and so I was just like, okay, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Something that we learn in our education is you stay in your own lane.
Yeah.
So for me, I lived when I moved back to Utah, I was like 45 minutes away from where my family is. I was like more down in like Provo area. I wasn't in Provo, I was in Lehigh. But so I was like, you know what? So I go to my husband and I'm like, yeah, we got to get out of here. I do not want to be in this space anymore. And it was a great time period because my son was about to start kindergarten.
Okay. So then
so all of my healing from my insecurities of our blended family, I'm like, we can now go back and move back by our family.
Okay.
So I was like, get me out of this toxicity and these the real mean girls.
Yeah.
And let's go escape back home. And so then we're like, okay, so let's go build a salon. And with that, I was like, okay, I'm going. I had all these team of assistants, but I let them know, okay, I'm going to go. And I didn't even invite anybody.
Oh, you didn't?
No, but then 2 of the girls, so one of them, she was assisting me and taking her own clients, and her name's Maylin. And so she came and did her intensive probably a couple months after I did. And she's like, if you're going, I'm going. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm moving up to Salt Lake. And so she's like, I don't care. And then we did say, okay, so we have 2 NBR artists, but we definitely need an assistant. And at the time, Sophie always assisted me. But she took a year off. She went and moved to LA and she went and worked a little bit in LA, and then she went to Australia.
Oh, okay.
And so I called her because I was like, well, we need our assistant. So we need Sophie back because she's our girl.
Yeah.
And I call her and she's literal skydiving. So she's like, let me give you 1 second. Let me jump out of this plane.
Sounds right.
I was like, okay. So she jumps off the plane. She FaceTimes me and she's like, what's up? And I was like, when are you going to come home? Because I'm going to start a salon and you need to come with me.
Oh, wow.
So that
was just like kind of break and like doing her thing.
Yeah. She had like a lot of issues. Not a lot of issues, but she just had like, there was a lot going on with her family.
Okay.
That she took care of. And so she kind of needed some space to go and grow and do her own thing. So she went and traveled the world when she lived in Australia. She just worked at a blow dry bar.
Okay.
And she went and traveled all over the world.
That.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I was like, come home to mama.
You're like, I need you to come back.
So then
it was you.
It was the 3 of us. Me, Maylin, and Sophie. So I already had a full clientele still double booking with MBR.
Okay.
When Maylin did come up, because she only had a few MBR clients, she didn't come really with any NBR clients. So she started taking my overflow, and then Sophie just started assisting the 2 of us. That's how we started.
Did the noise, like, because I think it's hard when you're like, you leave a kind of a toxic situation because you just have to. Did the noise get worse and then die down, or did you just rise so far above it that you're like, I don't even hear the noise anymore?
It was gone. It might have still been around, I didn't even hear it.
You didn't give it any attention.
No attention.
Yeah.
I was on cloud 9.
How did you do that? Because I think that that's something the hair industry can be kind of toxic, and really it can. I've educated and talked to so many hairstylists, and I've even talked to people who left the hair industry sadly because they're like, I cannot work in this toxic environment, and it's sad to me. And it's sad because it should be. I think that's why I love what you've created in your salon, which is like, you're like, I'm not going to deal with that bullshit. Like I was in it. Yep. So how did you make that shift for you? Was it just like you'd stayed in that space for so long that you were unwilling to tolerate that anymore? And it was just like a light switch and you're like, I'm going here and I don't care.
Yeah. So something also I really had a hard time with was telling people no for like most of my life. And then, but I realized, and that was like one of my calls that I was on with our education, it was by me saying yes to this, I'm saying no to my family. Yeah. And again, like my most important thing in my world is my little boy. And so it's like, okay. So I don't know. It really was a flip of the switch because I just kept having in my mind of like, well, if I go into this noise, then that means that my family ends up suffering because I play small it was these
limiting beliefs.
Yes, this mindset. So, but being in my space and then all of our clients, they all just came with us and we really were really lucky, especially with the processes that you have taught me of how to get a new client in. And again, some of my clients have still been with me since I was in hair school. Yeah. So I'm like, we have such a good crew of women. And so it was just so much fun. Yeah. So I just didn't care.
Yeah. And you got to kind of like lead it your way. So I want to touch base on something that's a little like sensitive topic for you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of hairstylists deal with health issues.
Yes.
Especially because, like I said, it's very hard to be on your feet for 10, 12 hours a day. Yeah. And there's two things I want to talk about. You've shared it on your social media, so I feel safe asking you.
Of course.
But tell us, you have narcolepsy. When did you find that out and what were the symptoms?
Again, and I hope that you understand the impact that your family has had on my life. I think I've actually had narcolepsy my entire life.
Wow.
But it wasn't, and I've just been so go since I was honestly in kindergarten. Wow. I'd do a million sports. I was always so busy. And it wasn't until I slowed down. It wasn't until I got really big into NBR and I was doing my 2 clients a day, 3 days a week. I had balance. My health was on point. Everything was on point that I realized, why am I still so tired?
Oh, wow.
So for those that don't know, so narcolepsy is a neurological disorder and it's that you can't stay awake. It's really hard to stay awake. So the feeling of narcolepsy is the same of like being awake for 72 hours straight. Wow. So you get really nauseous. You're really tired. Maybe a little bit irritable. Maybe that's why I'm so spicy and just really, really tired. And then so with that, I always just thought I was so tired because I was so busy, but it wasn't until I slowed down.
But you're like, why am I so tired?
But I did like my whole life. I've missed like every holiday, any like fun experience. And I think that's the reason why I also like to work so much is because when I'm working and I'm on my feet and I'm going
you're not tired. You're not stimulated.
No, I'm good.
So it's like the minute you sit down, all of a sudden your body's like rest.
Yeah. And it's not good.
How do you treat that?
So you treat it with stupid stimulants medication. And where again, like, yes, it's such a touchy thing because it makes me so, I just wish I love being in control of things. And I wish that I like had an answer and I had like a success story and I'm still going through it. And that's what's kind of makes me a little bit disappointed. But it's stimulants. And so how you get diagnosed is you have to do a whole sleep study and they scan your brain. I recently even got an MRI of my brain just to make sure nothing else was going on because my narcolepsy is so severe. So when I lay down, honestly, like in this moment, right this second, like I could literally lay on the floor. Asleep. So in a minute and a half I fall asleep and in 3 minutes I go into a REM sleep.
Wow.
So a deep sleep really quick. So I'm on a lot of stimulants. And so like one of my medications is what they give stroke patients to wake them up in the morning.
Oh, wow.
But the issue that I still have is I still can't drive. I still really struggle. So even with I'm like on the most you can be of everything and I still definitely I have a better quality of life, but I'm definitely not healed.
Yeah, but there's certain things you can't heal.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing that like you've done so much, and you don't let that like hold you back. You know, you're not
Yeah.
like, oh, it's because of my narcolepsy, or
Yes.
you know, because it's like, I mean, I have like severe anxiety. I will deal with it my entire life.
Yes.
You cannot cure it, but
No.
you know, it's like learning how to navigate it, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and not let it control you.
Yes. Sometimes I tell my husband, I do sometimes tell him, I'm like, sometimes I wish I didn't know.
Because then once you're diagnosed, you're like, you kind of in the back of your brain, it's like, hard.
No, I actually really can't drive, so I don't drive. Whereas sometimes I used to push myself a little bit more. Yeah, maybe I was in a little bit more pain, but sometimes I wish I didn't know.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's like,
I think
you feel like it limits you?
I feel like it makes me depressed. It makes me really depressed. It makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes feel like instead of I'm like this powerful person on the outside, but if I have to be honest, sometimes on the inside I feel really weak.
Yeah.
Really,
like
really weak.
It's like a weakness.
And so it kind of makes me feel like my body isn't a weapon, but more of a prison. And so I think it actually more fucks with my mental health than anything. It kind of makes me a little bit more, it definitely makes me like, I definitely am on depression medication. I definitely see like a therapist, but it definitely makes me really, even though I see all of the most amazing things at the end of the day, what I lay my head down with and what I have is I have my body. And so that's why I'm so passionate about trying to heal my body and trying to do what my body needs.
Yeah.
But
you've had an incredible weight loss journey recently too.
Yes.
How did you kind of get a control of that?
Okay. So going back to this,
because that video of you on your website, I'm like, who's that?
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. And you should have even seen it a year before. So it's so crazy because I was always really, really active, so into fitness, into everything. I've always been an athlete. I'm really tall and I'm really strong. Honestly, I'm kind of like a guy. Like I literally could, like my dad always tells me you should have been in football.
Oh, you think, Dad?
Like, yeah, for sure. But you know what? I'm going to cheer instead. But I've like always been really freakishly strong and really freakishly fast.
Okay.
But it wasn't until I really got into my career, the whole you don't eat, you don't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So you
crashed my metabolism and I gained like 50 pounds.
So that wasn't really
months.
you. Like that was just the downside of being in the industry and not taking care of yourself.
Not taking care of myself. Okay. I stopped working out, stopped going to CrossFit, everything. So that's what I gained a ton of weight.
And when did you decide to shift? Like what made you, did you look in the mirror
just when I went to Warrior Woman and we
it's all back then. I really pivoted you. I was like, Allie, you're too powerful for this shit. You need to go this way.
I'm like, you don't understand what you guys have done for my life. That's why I'm like, I love you guys. When I say I love you, I mean I love you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, it was going to the NBR, my class, and then also teaming up and really going through Warrior Woman to learn more about the core four, and then understanding that I will be better in my business if I treat my body.
Yes.
But that's why it also has been a much more of a slower journey for me because it's been super simple little baby daily things and not as quick as maybe some but as I started to gain more time, then I was like, okay, not only am I gonna have my, my greens or my water or my this or my that, because we'd always return and report on all of all of our calls for all of our education stuff of how everything was. And so it just kept me going slowly. And then honestly, as I had more time and energy, not really energy, I'm not going to say energy, but I had much more time and space. I wasn't working all the time. Then I was like, okay, great. So then I was just really consistent at the gym.
Yeah. It's crazy though, even hearing your journey, and for anybody who's listening, it's not a quick fix. There's never a quick fix. Warrior Woman, when you had even that pivot, was probably 6 years ago?
Yeah, it was almost 7 years ago.
6 years ago.
6 years ago.
And so many people will look at 6 years and be like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then 6 years actually goes by fairly fast.
Really fast.
I mean, I built my company in the last 12 years. Yeah, so it's just crazy what can happen with consistency. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to even interview you on this. You make it look easy. You really do. But I know you're a hustler and you work so hard. And so I wanted you to share, even you sharing your story, you still make it sound easy. You're like, I just worked till 3 a.m. and then I was and I'm like, you're crazy. But I think it's again, these small, consistent steps every single day. And even on the days that you wake up and you feel shitty, what do you do?
So I always go back to remembering your why and why you do what you do and all of the things behind it. And for me, I've really, really, just really, my why is so deep into me of why I do what I do. Yes, I started doing hair because my husband and I weren't doing really well, but why I decided, hey, fuck all of this. I'm going to extensions and I'm going to go to luxury extensions is because when my son was 3 years old, he actually was sexually abused when he's being babysat. by a family member. And that rocked my husband and my world. And so we made a choice in that moment that somebody was going to stay at home with our little boy. And although my husband had been in real estate and he had been in software, he has been an entrepreneur forever. I was so obsessed with hair and it was my passion that he supported me, and he did like what, in my opinion, like the ultimate sacrifice of taking a step back so that I could go and rise.
Wow.
Because somebody had to be at home with our baby. So like for me, it's a non-negotiable because I'm at the end of the day, I'm doing everything for my family.
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure like going through that, like I can't even imagine like the guilt you felt, but also like you knew what your calling was, you knew what you wanted to do, and you were like, okay, well, we'll find a way.
Yeah,
we'll find
always
a way.
Find a way.
And so thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what is your why? Your why is then your family. What's your why beyond even that? Like, what do you feel like kind of like your calling is? Because I've always vibed with you, and I was like, she didn't know how big she is, but you do. But I see who you are and who you're becoming. Yeah. So like for me, my why was like starting off with, hair, and then it evolved and got bigger and bigger. What's your why inside of business?
So I am a psychopath, and there's like, I call my salon my extended family. And so there's certain things that I do for, yes, my immediate family, but then being able to see like the domino effect and the ripple effect, and then also having my mentors who have been able to help me get to where I am, and I'm like, feel like I'm in a really good spot. I also want to be that for my extended family as well. So it sounds so silly, but like how my brain works is like, one of our girls, if she's going through a divorce and now a single mom, this and this and this, yes, I think of the girl, but I think of the impact it has on those babies. I always wanted to be a mom and wanted to have a ton of kids, and I only had one. And so I just like see those babies, and I'm just like, if there's something that I can do to keep going so that I can give their mom opportunity to keep going for those kids, and that they could have a better life, like that's the impact I want to live. And so I do. I think about all of like all of our girls are having more and more kids, and I'm just like,
then you can affect your whole family. I love that you share that, because I truly believe that this life is about impact and reach. And you can only have so much impact and reach based on your own personal growth. So it's scary, because even when I feel stagnant, I'm like, I tell myself, I'm like, okay, who are you not impacting? And I'm like, damn it. And so it's like kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone, because it's like the impact that you can make. And I want to say too, you've made such a big impact inside of my community. And I don't know if you know that, but like I'll go into workplace, you're always cheerleading people, you're always commenting. And for me, I'm like, gosh, why is Allie so like, why does she do that? But hearing the impact that, Garrett and I have had on you, I sense now that it's like you paying it forward. You're like, this changed my life, so let me lean in and help you. So I love hearing your story, Allie, and I feel like we could sit here and talk all day, but I want to close by just kind of asking you if you could give a new hairstylist, like she's just getting into the hair community, the hair world, and knows nothing, like give her a little words of advice. Yeah. Like what would you tell a hairstylist just jumping into the industry?
I would tell her that she can literally do and be anything that she wants. There is no limits. There are no yes or no. Like it is all whatever it is that you want. And as long as you are working towards your ultimate goal, everybody else will get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think I would say like, don't accept the rules that are not working for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Like question everything. I like one of the reasons I feel like I have had this success is because I was like, but why am I doing that?
Yes.
So I always say like ask why, and understand that you can create whatever you want to create, and it can be uncomfortable, but you know what's more uncomfortable? Staying where you're at. And that's like one of the things I always have to remind myself of. So what's next for you? This final question. What's next for Allie?
Next for me. So I coach, now I do salon owners.
That's
so
right.
I mentor different salon owners. And so I love it. I love the business part. I love the team aspect. So I'm just continuing with that. I'm just continuing with my team. We are just continuing. And I always say, you're staying the line.
Yeah. How's that going? The coaching, the salon owners?
Yes, so good.
Yeah.
I had another sales call this morning. So I'm tapped for the year. And it is so fun.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun. So I like that. I really like that.
I think it's like sometimes you feel called to do something and you think you need to have it like 100% figured out, but you don't give yourself enough credit that you're already qualified because of the team that you've built. So I just wanted to remind you of that.
I always thought, I was like, you're too young or you haven't been in business long enough. But then I was like, no, it's all good. I'm just going to think about like, what did I do with my team? And I'm like, literally just copy and paste.
Yep. And that's what I think a lot of people don't like realize. It's like teach with where you're at.
Yes.
And at some level, there's somebody who wants to own a little Ash Studios that sees you, and so you're now qualified.
So I'm now qualified.
You're now qualified. So I'm excited for you, and you're tapped out, you guys. You can't, if you're listening to this podcast and you're a salon owner, reach out to her in 2025.
Yep. You can get on the wait list for 2025.
Yeah, I'm going to help you support this vision because I know you're amazing at the salon culture and business and all that. So I'm here to support you.
Thank
Where
you.
can people find you? What's the name for your salon, or like where can people find you?
Okay, so me individually on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, it's at Hair Artist Allie. And then my salon is at Allie Scott Hair Studio and alliescotthairstudio.com.
All right, you guys. So you heard it. Definitely follow her. If you are in the Salt Lake area, are you guys accepting new guests?
Yes, always.
They're always accepting new guests. She's one of my trainers. She's phenomenal at what she does. She is the best in Salt Lake for luxury NBR hair extensions. So check her out on Instagram. And her team's really fucking funny. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Danielle K. White Show. I'm bringing you weekly content, hearing more people's stories to give you permission to go. So thank you for listening, and don't forget to share.